So to kick things off, we're going to talk about the next generation of press distribution. This panel is going to explore some of the early experiences with multimedia in press releases versus some of the capabilities and the engagement level with this tactic today. I've warned our panelists that throughout the next 2 days, we need to talk real-life examples. That is, successful campaigns, successful engagements, things you can take home with you to drive results for your business. Our panel today is going to take you through what types of releases work best for multimedia and how you can bring your press releases to life. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage our first panelist, Connie Schmid, the head of product marketing for Scribble Live, and Rudy de la Garza, COO for PRConnect. Over to you, Ben.
Okay. Wow. First panel, thank you guys for joining. Thanks for taking time out of your day.
Great. My pleasure.
All right, so I'm going to ask you guys a bunch of questions. So it is kind of weird that I'm doing all the moderating, but this is my education. So I look at this every time I get a chance to moderate. I'm sort of humbled to be on the stage with you guys. Teach me, make it conversational. I might ask you a question, but if you think there's a better question, jump in. If Rudy says something, jump in, Corinne, say something. Anyone in the audience has a question at any time, just raise your hand and we will get to you because it's about conversation. So let's begin with a little history, right? We'd like to hear from each of you guys. You've been doing press releases, right, for a long time, right? And a couple years ago, how hard was it, or how many of your clients asked, can we add multimedia? Can we add photos and videos? Was it hard, and did people ask for it? Why don't we start with you?
Great, thank you. So I'm with PRConnect, and PRConnect was incubated in 2001. We didn't become a press release distribution service formally until 2010. And at that point, we started serving the large, the biggies, West, Globe, and also the others. So we're kind of like this choke point of where all the press releases go out. So we've been able to see the actual movement from a text-based, journalist-focused kind of press release to what we're seeing now, which is the inclusion of multimedia across several channels. And so what PRConnect does is we take that, what we call content. We view it as content. So there are different ways to look at that press release, but we see it as basically a long-form ad because it's so powerful. So we use that and we amplify that not only in the regular distribution channels, but also in social media.
True.
So
I mean, you're all about content, right? Scribble Live is
Yes.
content first.
Yes, we definitely are. So Scribble Live, our motto is that we believe in high-performing content. And that means your content needs to attract, convert, and retain audiences. And so generally, we believe in a lot of our technology provides interactive experiences, live events. And what we also see is a lot of interactive and visual content types. So video, visual, and again, going back to the interactive experiences. And the press release was really the last thing to embrace and being able to input this technology and this sort of this medium into it. So everyone in blogs was doing it. We had V-blogging, we had all kinds of things, and we look at the stats of how frequently user-generated content is being published up onto the web, and it's crazy. And so for me, what I see, let me just take a step back. I got into press releases back in like 1996 when you had to use like a fax server and you actually had a paper and you faxed it. Like this is going way, way back. So now seeing that we're able to not only have this distribution mechanism and have that fully automated, but also to see that it can now be visual and interactive and embed these things into it, it's really elevated the press release back into what I see as being a main content type again, because I think we got a little bit away from it other than for highly regulated and compliance-driven purposes.
Awesome. When you were talking about the fax machine, I was thinking of you, Jeff Stacy. Your business started that way, right? Didn't you your first company was all about sending the fax machine press release?
Fax was an incredible part of the business.
Yep.
Can we get him a microphone? Do we have a Q&A mic? One second, I'm going to get you a Q&A mic so you could actually, so the people watching on the web can actually hear you.
Really, really loud.
Okay.
So yes, I mean, fax was an important part of the distribution at the time, and we didn't accept press releases via fax into our editorial rooms. You had to log on, upload your release, and at the time, that was a bit different because PR Newswire and Business Wire were still accepting press releases into their editorial team by fax, and someone else would key them in. but fax broadcast was an incredible part of the business. It was a significant part of revenue at the time. So yeah, we've come a long way since the days of fax.
Thank you, Jeff. But made me think about that. Because he told me to business how he was in his garage as he started his first company waiting for the first fax to go through. All right, so let's fast forward to today, right? How's it changed? I mean, are people asking every single day, I want to put video, do I want to put graphics? Can you send, is the flat text press release yesterday?
I don't think the flat text press release is yesterday. It's just lazy. That's what it is. You can still tell that wonderful story in text, but as we start to shift to where this press release is being consumed, those types of multimedia channels or tactics that you can run become more effective and more necessary. So you need to do these things to grab the attention, because the days are gone, are probably gone, of you sending something out and hoping somebody picks it up. There's now the ability for you to use this content and put it in front of the people who need to see it. And that's a very different thing. Now you've gone from maybe a passive type interaction to where you can be proactive about this.
And then proactive also means that once I send it out, besides people reading and get the information, since we're in a world where bloggers are almost more powerful than media outlets right now, it's how they pick up their stories, right?
Very much, and I agree with what Rudy is saying, because, and to your point, bloggers, there was a rise of bloggers, and all of a sudden everybody was an expert. And now I feel that we're taking a step back in this era of fake news. And the fact is that journalists they're under so much pressure, and there's so few of them left, that like authentic, genuine, and verifiable information, when you compare a press release to a blog, the press release is a legally binding document of record, period. A blog, you could have a CEO quoted in there and a CEO quoted in a press release, and the thing that's legally binding is the press release. So I feel that the press release is sort of it's a necessary evil,
right,
so to speak. But I feel with now adding in the multimedia that we're at that, to quote Jeffrey Moore, it's going to cross the chasm, and it's really going to start to uptick. And I feel that that's because of these things, that now it's visual, and the fact that it goes to how people just simply get and they're able to interpret visual content so much faster than text-based. So as well, if we look at the rise of the millennials in that capacity, having things that go to them that they can quickly interpret, that they can quickly assess, and in a format that is easy for them. I think that that's just going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of going forward.
You want to add anything to that?
She is just so good at this content side. I want to add one more thing, that this press release now can be distributed across channels like never before. Mm-hmm. So think of this particular scenario where maybe typical IR kind of execution, investor relations, where before you ran that press release for legal reasons. Now you can put that press release in front of people who are interested in day trading. Mm-hmm. Very different world.
I think it's incredible. I mean, one of the things that we've talked a lot with the acquisition of InExpo, as we do more and more marketing webcasts, why would anyone not do a press release promoting a broadcast? Why would you not do a press release promoting this on the web? Mm-hmm. Because it comes in my inbox, it's really easy to forward. It's also, if you forget about the event and you go to Google and you search the topic and then you go to news, the press release is there. It doesn't go away. Mm-hmm. And it's everywhere. I mean, it's a powerful marketing tool, but I never hear anyone talk about press release as, hey, our marketing plan is we're going to do 30 little videos, we're going to speak at these conferences, we're going to do this. No one ever sits there and goes, hey, we're going to do these press releases to drive audience.
Yeah, just one more detail on that. We're starting to see and we're starting to advocate for the content calendar and the promotion calendar and the PR calendar should overlay in your Outlook. Mm-hmm. So if you can get those things to happen, you're on the right track.
So do you think embedding multimedia, mm-hmm, whether it's an infographic, whether it's a video, whether it's an HTML slide set, is that the holy grail of press release? You want people to forward it into. Mm-hmm. Do you think it makes a difference? Does it become a destination then?
Yes, and I think that in the way that we're so inundated now with blogs, I think that there's just too much. It's difficult, and now recent stats suggest that if you want to be relevant in the blogging world, you need to be pushing it over 16 a month. That's a lot of blogs.
Yep.
And so in terms of thought leadership, in terms of, again, going back to The press release being one, it's used for regulatory and that type of an IR purposes, but now the press release can be back to becoming the story. It can become part of that top of funnel, that engagement, that attract your audience medium that we didn't have before because we didn't have the multimedia in it. And so when we did our press release, we got pickup in one of our largest target markets and our largest target journal. And so the Demand Gen report actually published, because they could see and we had the visuals in there, we had outreach back from them the same day that we put out the press release, and we were down this week. We actually were published in the report, which we were thrilled about.
Did it surprise you?
It saved me. Normally, I would have had to have done the obligatory follow-up to the press release. Did you see our press release? And of course they did, or of course they didn't. They're going to say they did, but who actually picks up the phone and who actually really does follow-up anymore? There's just so much other opportunity, and we're all pressed for resources, and there's so few journalists that are left who are reporting. So the fact that they proactively picked it up and came to us for more information, it saved us time, it saved us a lot of rigmarole, and it was a really great article.
Rudy, what kind of content do you think in a press release drives the biggest response?
I think it does matter by sector, because sometimes you have to just play it straight and you have to just get that announcement out there, but you can still add something that is for engagement.
Okay.
You can still add that image. And let me just, as a side note, stock imagery doesn't count. Okay? That nice lady in the elevator holding an iPad, none of that.
Like my foot with the arrows going wrong, that doesn't work?
Well, thankfully it's not a press release. Okay,
Yeah.
so good. But I'm talking about genuine stuff. If you're going to go through the effort of creating that press release, put in something that matters if you want it to work. Again, I'm going to go back to that laziness part. These days, it's so easy to create something unique that speaks to what is being said in that press release. Take the extra 15 minutes to do that, because in an answer to your question, that can be the difference of someone looking at it and spending that 4 seconds to read your headline. They read your headline, they're hooked, they're spending another 20 seconds. That's what you're looking for.
And Rudy's hitting on a really important point, and that is the authenticity of the content and the message. Journalists, we all know, and they can see past the hyperbole and the gobbledygook meter.
Yep.
And so in terms of then the visuals, the multimedia putting in there, if it is entirely self-serving, if it is entirely just in a continuation of the ad, then it doesn't matter that you're putting in these visuals and that you're putting in this video and interactivity into the press release. It's still the intent of what you're doing isn't genuine, and your audience is going to know that.
So let me ask you a question. So in video, right? If I was going to do video, Rudy, what's like the perfect press release to do video?
I can't find a perfect one because every sector can use it.
Well, that's actually a better answer.
I'm serious. Every sector can use it. It's just, it drives engagement. You're going to get much more attention, plus the click-through rates. It's so amazing how the press release industry is now adopting the nomenclature of digital marketing,
Right.
where click-through rates and dwell time and all these measurables are now here for us. If we filter that press release content through digital channels, you can start to receive data like never before. And you're talking about, like I said, click-through rates, but now you can understand gender, who's reading this, the age brackets of who's reading this, what device they were on, what region they were in. All of this feeds back into you making a better press release next time.
And then when you pile on Media Monitor on top of it, just makes it that much more powerful. So when would you recommend to a client, when is a image or a graphic more important than a video? How would you make, if you're advising me as a client, because Scribble Live, you do both. You're going to create an infographic, you're going to help me with a video. When's the time when it's a video, and when's the time for an infographic?
Off the top of my head, it'd be based on target and segmentation.
Okay.
So if I'm going after a millennial audience, and I know that I'm going after the cool kids, I'm definitely leading with video first and mobile responsive. Whereas if I'm targeting an older sort of Generation X or Y audience, and I'm one of those people, I feel terrible saying that we're old, but the older than the millennial audience, then I would definitely lead with visual.
We're mature.
Mature, yes,
Yeah.
very mature.
We have like 12,000 days left in our lives, so just think about it. Think about it that way. So here's a question I want to sort of tie it together. So we talked that one of the main reasons besides checking the box, press release a lot of times is check the box, right? But we're doing it because we want people to write stories about it. And the coolest part about me, or in my mind, about putting graphics or video in it, you're basically giving that writer some tools to work with. So they can write their story and still take the embed code and put it into their story. Do you think about that when you're doing it, knowing that I want them to take this infographic, I want them to take this video, and I want to enable that blogger to, if they're going to write one story today, are they going to write it off of my press release because I've given them great bonus tools with it?
Absolutely. In the same way that the press release was the article, sort of years gone by, that basically when it came to, we made the journalist's life easy and it was a copy and paste for them. It's the same thing for that embed code. It's the copy and paste and put it in for them, make their lives easy.
All right, so let me do the flip side for that. When isn't multimedia needed in a press release?
Okay, so I have a good case study here. There's one where in that investor relations kind of realm, a buddy of mine is working on some artificial intelligence and machine learning that's going to bring in facial recognition and mannerism recognition for video so that he can understand more if that CEO is lying. So
wow.
I would say that going forward, maybe for that legally binding announcement that you might want to make, just go ahead and stick with the text.
You know, it's funny you said that. I'm staring at Sylvie out there. Sylvie and I looked at technology like that, what, like 4 months ago?
Yeah.
And we kind of liked it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Where you can actually sit there, like when I was up there talking, nope, he's lying about that. He didn't spend 18 months or 17
Yes.
months or something like
Has
that.
many uses.
Wow, you were going to add?
Yeah, I mean, I have a queasy stomach. I don't deal well with blood, so I would say anything involving surgery. Just, if we're gonna, like anything that's gross, no.
See, me on the other side, if I wanted someone to write medical journalism, we do a lot of healthcare.
Yeah.
I want that hip replacement video,
Nope.
Oh, no, okay.
But let's also remember, the limitations in the platforms, right?
Yep.
You only need a 15-second thing here. So you're probably not going to get too bloody.
Yeah.
But you certainly could show, some guy scrubbing up and getting ready
Yeah.
to perform,
There we
right?
go.
And that's probably nicer.
So let me ask you this question then, because I think video in a press release or any animations in a press release, short form,
Yep.
keep it 15 seconds, 30 seconds or less. There could always be a link in the press release. You want to watch the whole 9-hour saga,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
can do it. But do you agree shorter better? I mean, you were just touching on it, but
100% it has to be snackable. It has to be, I would say, the old Vine, may they rest in peace, the old Vine metaphor, 6 seconds or less. Really, because you're bringing and drawing them in. If they want the longer one, that there can be that click-through.
it's funny because Drew Van Voren, who's in the audience, like 8 years ago, you were like, snackable content. That's what we got to create, just snackable content. So that's kind of crazy that that everyone agrees with it. All right, so now, before we wrap, what advice do you give people? I mean, look in the audience and say, hey, what would you advise going forward on PR distribution? What should they be thinking about? Give them like your top 3-4 things.
Okay, so I would say that you really need to take a look at your organizations and make sure that that dialogue across public relations, digital marketing, and content at least has some horizontal lines. And if you already have some horizontal lines, you need to open those up into wide corridors. Because the way that this can work in the future, actually we're already there, is when you can align these resources, you can make something magical. And I have a case study that if we have a few minutes, I'd love to talk about that.
Talk about
Okay.
it. Unless
So-
you mind. Do you mind? All right.
This happened 2 weeks ago. So customer makes a press release that has an image in it. And it's the customer's customer was a personal injury attorney. And so he wrote a press release about his take on a recent high-profile event that happened in Dallas. There was a police shooting, shot a gentleman, and so this personal injury attorney was just giving his take on it. We were able to get that press release, take that content as it was written, as it was created, and make a Facebook ad out of it. We made a Facebook ad out of it, spent $100 in budget, and drove 1,600 unique clicks to that customer's website from that press release that went to the ad that went to his website. On his website, he had his Facebook pixel there. So he was able to remarket to those people and create lookalike audiences of people who are interested in that case, law enforcement, criminal justice. Here's the kicker. The customer got another case out of it of value of $250,000 to the personal injury attorney. That's what's possible.
100%. I think from when I look at the former editorial calendar, and a lot of it now in media outreach, I feel is more sort of editorial and article placement and influencer marketing. And I feel, to Rudy's point, it's breaking down the walls of those silos within the organization as you're planning your outreach. Influencer marketing includes the press, 100%. And I think that having a bit of a resurgence in the press release and making that now more than just the regulatory and mandatory and compliance reasons for putting out your earnings and what you have to report on, but rather really using that as a vehicle now to that top of funnel to bring them in, and also align that with your demand generation programs, align that with your social outreach, align that with your influencer marketing. And when you look at that, Rudy also hit on a good point, and that's about the data. In this world of GDPR, in a world of opt-in and double opt-in and all of this legislation, and we're just the tip of the iceberg at this point, there's going to be a lot more of that. Having this type of click-through and this type of service allows you to really understand who your audience is, really to get the data, and that's actually now declared data. And that's critical for understanding your segmentation, your targeting, who you're going to market to, and ultimately building out those buyer personas and understanding that digital buyer journey as they go through their path to purchase. And that's definitely where I see a lot of value.
So it is imperative, if I'm going to do a press release, to send it out to my syndicate it to my social places as well.
Absolutely.
Right? Which a lot of people don't think about. It's not just hitting this circuit. I mean, we spent a lot of time and a lot of money building one of the best circuits on the place, in the market, but you also got to take your press release and you got to syndicate it. And one of the things we talk about internally all the time is we have an influencer database, and a lot of our PR clients don't use it. How do we get them to use it more? And then on our webcast side, how do you do a marketing webcast and not hit all the influencers?
Right.
People, you have to think about it's not just one thing anymore. You can't live in a silo.
Right. Yeah.
All right, I got one more question for you guys. But does anyone have any questions in the audience? And can we get a microphone? All right. So Keith Barrett is running through the room to get a microphone. He's jumping over cases of wine, and here he is.
Thank you, Keith. Corinne, you mentioned quickly an editorial calendar and how it's evolved. Can you dig a little deeper on that, and what does an editorial calendar look like now versus what it might have looked like?
Right. So before you had the PR area, and then you had your marketing area, and you had sort of marketing communications, and you had your demand gen. And now those two need to work together in terms of what are, let's say, your evergreen campaigns and topics that you're going to be doing, and then that's at the macro level. At the micro level, really drilling down onto those sort of chapters of that book. So what are the key themes and narratives that you're going to be putting out, and being able to then have sort of the evergreen and then the micro content and topics that you're going to focus on, and looking at how the press release can perhaps be that top and the tip of it, and that leads then to a blog that's in support of it through syndication, and then through your digital domains and properties. You now have a lot more coverage than you would have before. And then that obviously supports the sales force. It gives them the air cover they need while feeding into the demand gen process.
Great. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'd say what it looks like in the office, what that calendar looks like. I've seen it manifest itself in a couple of cool ways. Some folks will use even an old tool like Basecamp, where it manages a calendar for you and you have different people input into that. I've also seen it where it is just Outlook, and you can show the overlap of the different colors. Like PR inserted something on Wednesday the 17th, and then that tells editorial that they need to be ready for this, or that, and then the promotion team knows that a week before then they should be, so you can really see all that. I've also seen that type of calendar put on a monitor in the middle of the floor, so that everyone can walk by and there's no excuse that you know that something on the 17th is dropping.
All right, any other questions? We got one over here. We got one over there.
Hi. I have a general counsel who's very conservative, so in the realm of legally binding, she will not allow us to put links in the press releases because it could be interpreted as us, even back to our own website, which I think is very conservative, but it could be perceived as we are, taking the opinion of whatever we're linking to. What do you recommend?
Off the top of my head, even charts and stats go a long way. So charts where if it's for, you mentioned it's for your IR department. So charts where you have your year-over-year growth, that could be a visual chart or a pie chart of some sort. So it can be a static image that doesn't link back, which is unfortunate, but a good start maybe for the comfort level to ease up a little bit would be in visual representation of the figures that are being communicated.
Can I add one thing to that? And can you give the microphone to Jeff Stacy for a second? So here's a pretty interesting, so we launched Media Snippets, and the first client who used it on their own for IR was NASDAQ, right?
That's right.
We didn't even
Yeah.
know. And and there's probably not a more conservative organization, Jeff?
I would say NASDAQ is very conservative, very risk averse. They have, 100 lawyers on staff. So yes, NASDAQ is a very conservative organization. And they used this thing we call Media Snippets in their earnings press release to announce some key financial metrics from that quarterly earnings press release. I mean, to answer your question more directly about your general counsel, I assume he or she's not concerned about linking back to your own website, but a third-party website.
No, she is, our own website.
So I would say linking back to your own website should be extremely safe,
Yeah.
as long as your general counsel is reviewing the content on that page and making it clear to the internal folks that they don't change the content on that page because it's being referenced from a press release. You would think it would be pretty safe. So I don't know how you convince he or she to do that, but I wouldn't link to third-party websites in a press release. I'd link back to my own website. That should be safe.
And the graphics would be linked to your website anyway, or they'd be your graphics anyway, so it's not bringing you to a third party, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So maybe you should share with her what the NASDAQ one so she can share with her chief counsel.
Yeah.
Show
Let's,
that.
let's
Can I
talk
add
about
one more
that.
thing to that?
Of course you can.
Without the link back to your website, services like PRConnect, it makes it a lot harder for us to amplify your content in social because there's no destination to send the traffic to.
It's true.
We only allow one link back to the homepage.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's hard. All right.
Oh.
Yep. I see all the people who are marketing, they're going to go, oh no.
Yeah.
I think there was another question over here somewhere. Someone else have a question? Yep.
Yeah.
Stephen Fink.
Thanks, Ben. Rudy, when you get the buy-in, let's talk maybe IR specifically, what is the video production solution that you suggest or recommend? In other words, is it in-house that people would actually produce that multimedia, or is it something that a service provider like yourself produces, and how does that get deployed?
It really just depends on where your organization is in this process. If they've never done it before, I would say, get a third-party vendor to just come in with a little green screen behind you, a good light. You probably want your stakeholder, whoever is giving that particular address, to just look sharp. You want it to look professional. You want it to look like your company would want it to look with your branding and that sort of thing. So let them show you. Just spend the money to let a third party show you what the best practices are. And then after that, you're talking about a $1,500 expense to get it in a closet in your office to have that done anytime you want. I would do that.
Corinne, anything you want to add to that?
We've had some people actually use iPhones and actually do recordings off of iPhones, but this gets more into when you're, the edgy, when you work with an edgy, smaller, more edgy client, and they can have just the handheld, and it doesn't matter if it's a little shaky or whatnot. But when you're dealing with a more conservative audience, it is that you get a pop-up background, absolutely, and rent a camera or just use a decent one.
There's time for user-generated content. I think is actually
Yeah.
more powerful than produced. I don't want to always see something with beautiful city winery behind me or in a studio.
Yep.
I sometimes want to see the real thing. All right, so I'm going to look over to these two ladies, Kathy or Emma. You guys work with clients every single day on what kind of content they should create. Do you have an opinion on it? And the microphone's right there, so you got to answer something right now.
An opinion on this? Well, going back to, I think, an opportunity for teaching people best practices and how to create their content. I mean, that's exactly what we do, so our eyes lit up over here. So I think that's something that can be easy and also doesn't have to be overdone. So I'm incredibly happy about that and excited for that opportunity.
Yeah, I would echo that, and also what Ben said is it's nice to have a good mix of content, so user-generated for your more casual friendly content, and then something a little more buttoned up like a green screen drop back, or you can actually just find a nice space in your office that's got great lighting and a nice simple background and use that. And we do that all the time and educate people on just best practices and how to engage your audience, because that's the most important thing.
I mean, the key is executives have to become opinion leaders.
Yeah.
Right? You have to become an opinion leader in space, and there's no way to really become an opinion leader in space anymore without creating video. It's the only thing that gets forward. It's the only way to get shifted. If they don't see you, they're not going to know. It's why I truly believe in it's panels later on, but that all IR over the next 5 years is going to move to video. Because if you're doing your earnings video and everyone's up there and they're having a bad quarter, I get to look in the eyes of the CEO and he'll go, don't worry, man, I got it under control. Trust me. And you can make your own judgment. And if it's a good quarter, I want to sit there and go like this and go, come on, I'm the greatest organization in the world. And it's not about how it's produced. You want people to see you as an expert.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Good way to use it.
have you created any video of yourself on your site? Have you used your own? Have you eaten your own dog food? Have you done it yourself?
Oh, absolutely. For different channels, of course, right? So I've done webinars. I've done the 15-second. I'll tell you where my challenge personally, and that's why I outsource this now. But getting that great piece of content down to 15 seconds, that's probably the hardest part. But that's what your good video folks that you have on staff can help you with.
We drink our own champagne.
Okay.
Nice.
Very fancy in Toronto. Very fancy.
I know, us Canadians. So yes, I think that, well, we definitely use our own technology for both live events as well as recently for our campaigns, doing infographics, looking at how more we can do video. We use a lot of video for internal training purposes as a technology vendor and supplier. Sometimes having explainer reels is a lot better than handing out documentation, which is thick and boring to look at. So video is definitely, it's very, very powerful.
You know, this isn't about our organization, but in Expo, if you check out their website, why it's still in Expo before it moves to totally to WDMS, they've actually mastered the short video content, and on social too. They've done a really amazing job at it. It's one of them. It's not the reason we acquired them, but it's a very impressive element. If we could monetize that, then that would have been, they would have got more money. All right, so question?
Sure, just a comment to add to this gentleman's question. I'll be talking a little bit about this later. Is you don't want to think of it as a one-size-fits all. It's not a magic, let's do everything in front of a green screen. You got to think of what's the specific purpose of that video and how can it be presented. And one good play for thought leadership is interview style, because it's relatively inexpensive to produce, yet it can have that professional look pretty easily.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Oh, no questions. Final words. Any advice to the audience?
I think just get started. Really take a look at, owned, it's, you can obviously, there's paid media, but now you can own it again and you can earn it, which is really great. And this is, the Media Snippets really showed us. We had a huge success with it. We were really happy with the results and outcomes. And it's something that now we're really taking a look at how we're going to let Omni Marketing approach with sort of that press release element back into it. And so there's a lot of really exciting things that we have that we're brainstorming on that I think we'll see in the next quarter rolling out.
Awesome.
Last thought would be start to think about the press release as more than just that legally binding document. It can be so much more. It can be content, and in the case that we talked about earlier, it can drive sales if you do it. And just try it. You're not going to hurt anything.
Awesome. First of all, thank you guys so much. I learned a lot. Hopefully it was great for everyone watching on the web, everyone here. And
Thank you,
thank
Ben.
you so much.
Great, thank you.